All right, so welcome to Get Involved in Fraternity and Sorority Life. My name is Joe Thompson. I serve as the Assistant Director of Student Development here at Stockton. That's a fancy way of saying that I advise clubs and organizations, but primarily the fraternities and sororities at Stockton. So I'm going to go through a little bit today, some of the history of fraternities and sororities, what are they all about, why would anyone want to join one? And then, of course, how do you actually join one here at Stockton? So pretty simple, but here we go. So what exactly are fraternities and sororities? Fraternities and sororities, from the Latin words frater and soror, basically just equate to brother and sister, respectively. These are fraternal social organizations. In English, the term refers mainly to such organizations at colleges and universities in North America. In modern usage, the term Greek letter organization is often synonymous with the terms fraternity and sorority. So as you see, we go through this, I tend to use the words fraternity and sorority. A lot of campuses might use Greek letter organizations. We try to actually avoid Greek life or the term Greek to be respectful of people of actual Greek ancestry to not cause confusion. So a lot of students still use Greek life and they still use the term Greek. That's something I personally try to get out of folks' vernacular, but it's so much a part of our society that that's kind of difficult. But no, I digress. But you'll hear the university, you hear us using the terms fraternity and sorority life. Typically, Greek letter organizations are single gender, initiatory organizations with lifelong membership. So two things there. The first thing I said there is single gender. There is an asterisk I put there on purpose because a lot of organizations, while it might be single gender, are pretty inclusive in regards to welcoming folks that are trans or non-binary into their organizations. So that's number one. Two, there's also organizations that are that are open to anyone of any gender. Okay, so we do have those on campus with organizations like APO. The second part of this is that they are initiatory organizations. So what I mean by that is you don't just sign up and join, you actually need to get initiated into the organization to be a full member. Membership is often associated with undergraduate years only, but membership is meant to be lifelong, right? So most people do associate fraternities and sororities as something they did when they were in college, but we really try to instill in folks that when you join a fraternity or sorority, we're talking about lifetime membership. So yes, you might be really active while you're an undergrad, and that might be the bulk of your activity in your membership, but there are folks like me who have continued as volunteers. For my national fraternity, I actually serve as the national treasurer of my organization. We have networking events for alumni. I consider myself a full-time member of my fraternity, and that I will be a member for the rest of my life. And that's really important because it's supposed to be something that's not just about what you do in college. It is a lifetime membership. So there are organizations who do a much better job at that lifetime membership piece than other organizations. In particular, historically Black, Latino, Asian, and multicultural organizations have really strong active membership long after undergraduate years and often initiate many of their members actually after completion of their undergraduate years. So that's a place where MPHC, UCGC organizations, I'll talk a little bit about that later, what that means. These organizations that are culturally based organizations, historically Black, Latino, Asian, multicultural, do a much better job than other organizations in regards to really having that lifetime membership focus. So you'll see members that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are still representing the organization, wearing letters and participating in events, a lot more than organizations like my own, in fact. All right, so that's important. You know, we are very used to fraternities and sororities having Greek letters, but why is that? So the naming of organizations is also important in understanding where fraternities and sororities kind of come from in our purpose. So the names of North American fraternities and sororities generally consist of 2 or 3 Greek letters, often the initials of a Greek motto, which might be secret, right? So I'm in a fraternity called Phi Mu Delta, and PMD, or the letters Phi, Mu, and Delta, do actually have meaning, and it's not secret for my organization. You know, the D, for example, stands for democracy. Okay, so you'll find out that a lot of organizations' letters are not random whatsoever. They actually do represent something, and it might be representative of something that is actually in Greek. So that's really cool. It's not random. It actually serves a purpose. For this reason, though, fraternities and sororities are referred to by the encompassing term Greek letter organizations and described by the adjective Greek, as seen in phrases such as Greek community, Greek system, Greek life, or members as Greeks. Again, as I already mentioned, that's something we're trying to get away from in respect for those of the Greek ancestry and Greek culture, the country of Greece. All right, but again, this is so part of our society. Colloquially, you'll hear a lot of people refer to us as Greek life and Greeks. But here at Stockton, it's Fraternity and Sorority Life. We're members of fraternities and sororities. So again, why Greek letters? A little bit of history to understand. I think it's important to understand this history, that you're not just joining an organization at Stockton, but you really understand the full scope of what this is about. So the Phi Beta Kappa Society, founded on the 5th of December, 1776, that's how old fraternities and sororities are, at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, is generally recognized to be the first Greek letter student society in North America. It was founded by John Heath, who had failed at admission into two existing Latin letter fraternities at the college, the FHS Society and the PDA Society. The main developments associated with Phi Beta Kappa are the use of Greek letter initials as a society name and the establishment of branches or chapters at different campuses, following the pattern set by Masonic lodges. So the Greek letters Phi Beta Kappa come from this motto in Greek. I'm not going to pretend like I can pronounce it, but it's there right in front of you. Basically, it means philosophy is the helmsman of life. Now officially translated as philosophy is the guide of life. So that's actually what the meaning of Phi Beta Kappa means. Again, we talked about how the letters actually have meaning. They represent something. Greek was chosen as the language for the motto due generally to classical education at the time, and specifically because founder John Heath was the best Greek scholar in college. So here is the Greek alphabet. Most members of the fraternity and sorority community have this memorized. It's important to obviously be able to at least identify the letters of the Greek alphabet and pronounce them correctly. We do have 27 active recognized fraternities and sororities at Stockton that use a combination of these different letters. So it's important to familiarize yourself with these. If you're joining a fraternity and sorority community, it's something that will be likely a part of your new member program. So let me talk to you a little bit about the different types of fraternities and sororities or Greek letter organizations. Most Greek letter organizations are social organizations, presenting themselves as societies to help their members better themselves in a social setting. Certain organizations were established for specific religious or ethnic groups and cultural or multicultural emphasis. So I mentioned before, we talked about lifelong membership, that there are a lot of organizations that are historically Black, historically Latinx, historically Asian, or multicultural, right? It's important to note the reason why these organizations started in the first place. So if you look at an organization like Alpha Phi Alpha, which was the first historically Black MPHC fraternity, they started out of necessity. So when students that were Black were attending college, first of all, at the time they started in the early 1900s, most schools, Black students were not allowed to even attend. So you can imagine a small number of Black students attending a college in the first place. And this is also why there's the creation of historically Black colleges and universities, because they couldn't attend other institutions. The same reason why those institutions started is the same reason why these fraternities and sororities started, out of necessity, because at the time, most of these fraternities and sororities would not allow them membership. Right? So that's a part of the sad history of a lot of these organizations and institutions around the United States. But Obviously, that's not the case today, but it's important to remember our history, and that's really important for the reason why these organizations started in the first place. You'll see that there are a lot of culturally based, historically Black, Latino, multicultural organizations that started in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So obviously, they didn't start specifically for that reason, but they might have started to keep tradition alive in terms of their culture and things like that. So again, that cultural piece is extremely important in the creation of a lot of our organizations. And then lastly, there are also organizations that use Greek letters, but they are service, academic, or professional advancement organizations. A great example of this is actually Alpha Phi Omega, APO for short. You'll notice we have a chapter of APO on our campus. Not only am I a member of Phi Mu Delta Social Fraternity, but I am also a member of APO Service Fraternity. It is an organization that allows anyone to join of any gender. They're a service organization, so they spend a lot of time doing service projects, but they're an example of a Greek letter organization that don't fall into the social fraternity and sorority scope. We do also have several academic fraternities and sororities at Stockton, professional organizations as well, some honor societies that have other elements that fall into, they do some programming and things like that. So don't be surprised moving forward in the future if we actually have a new umbrella council at Stockton that kind of encompasses a lot of these groups. Hint, hint. So going back to focusing on the recognized social fraternities and sororities, again, this list is as of today. An updated list can always be found at stockton.edu/Greeks, but here is a list of who is recognized right now. So I have these categorized into the councils they fall in under Stockton. MPHC is specifically a lot of our historically Black fraternities and sororities, also known as the Divine Nine. You'll notice that we have 8 of those groups. There are 9. We haven't had a Phi Beta Sigma chapter at Stockton in close to 20 years. I hope that does change. I hope that we have membership in all 9 of our MPHC organizations one day. That would be really wonderful. But you'll see who we have active membership for at the moment. UCGC, that's our Unified Cultural Greek Council. So these are organizations that are Latinx based, they're multicultural, all right, as example, Southeast Asian fraternity. So again, a lot of these culturally based organizations that don't fit into the Divine Nine fall under the UCGC. And then IFC and MPC. MPC itself is a National Panhellenic Council conference. So they have their own member organizations. And then IFC is a mix of fraternities that some fall under the NIC, which is an umbrella organization, and some are independent. But these are organizations that have come together to form a fraternity council at Stockton. So it's a lot of information there, but the most important thing is that you see and understand which groups are recognized, and these are the groups that are currently recognized at Stockton. So if anybody approaches you and says that they're a member of a social fraternity that isn't one of these, or says that they're trying to return to Stockton or get recognized at Stockton, make sure you come back to this list and you'll see what those organizations are, or feel free to reach out to me to see if it's legit, because that's extremely important. We want to make sure that if you were going to join a fraternity or sorority at Stockton, it is one that is actually recognized. Reason being, if it's recognized, then you get to work with me, that we provide you training, oversight, and skills to kind of help you be the best organization you can be and support the officers of your chapters. And there's a lot of liability, insurance, and things that cover you if you're in a recognized organization. If you're not in a recognized organization, then you lose out on all of that. So that's really important. So the Stockton Fraternity and Sorority Life community at a glance. So if you're thinking about joining a fraternity or sorority at Stockton, something to think about in terms of our social fraternities and sororities and who we are kind of representing our community. So if you look at our numbers, we are about 12% of the Stockton undergraduate population. All right, so you're looking at over 1,000 students at Stockton, a part of these 27 organizations that I just showed you. Average cumulative GPA of those members is a 3.35, right? So any stereotypes or things that you thought about fraternity and sorority members in terms of their academic standing, I can tell you that a 3.35 tends to be at or above the all-student GPA average at Stockton. So our members of our fraternities and sororities are excelling academically. $250,000 has been raised for charity over the last 5 years. So that is a 5-year, adding the past 5 years together, over 250K. So our organizations are raising a lot of money for their various philanthropies. And then 20K plus is the average annual service hours. So on a yearly basis, the members of the fraternity and sorority community tends to give over 20,000 hours of community service, anything from road and beach cleanups, which is popular around here, to working at the local food kitchens and sorting food and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of really localized projects that they get involved in. So why would I want to join a fraternity or sorority? I already just mentioned a little bit about academics and service and philanthropy. So that in itself might get you really interested, and I hope it does. But I want to provide you some other reasons why you should consider joining a fraternity or sorority. So I'm going to provide you a little bit of research. I don't think I have to explain to you that joining a fraternity or sorority can be a lot of fun. I think I can do this entire program without mentioning that. You can probably assume that it's a lot of fun, and it is. So I'm going to focus more on some of the research and the tangibles that are going to help you as you move forward through college and then afterwards, after graduation and starting your careers. So a Gallup-Purdue University index study of close to 30,000 college graduates found that graduates who are members of fraternities and sororities are more likely to be thriving in all 5 elements of well-being during their postgraduate years. And those are sense of purpose, social well-being, financial well-being, community involvement, and physical well-being. So of course, I'm going to share this information. I think this is a really wonderful way to show how fraternity and sorority life can impact you following graduation in terms of your overall well-being as you move on forward in life. So just awesome research there. And again, that's close to 30,000 college graduates in that research study. A recent study, Indiana University, using data from 700 institutions over a 4-year period, determined the following. Fraternity and sorority membership indirectly improved learning gains, acting through higher levels of student engagement. So basically what this says is students that get involved, join fraternities and sororities, it helps them focus, it helps them even do better in school. Despite being less diverse than students in general, fraternity and sorority members reported higher levels of interaction with people different from themselves than did other students. So again, going against a well-thought stereotype of how fraternities and sororities might kind of silo themselves, particularly when talking about diversity. But in fact, members of fraternities and sororities actually report higher levels of interaction with those that are different than themselves. Membership in a fraternity or sorority is associated with greater involvement in curricular and co-curricular activities, promotes student learning and development, and promotes satisfaction with college experience. The largest positive effects were generally found for first-year students, right? So that's important too. So if you're a new student at Stockton and you'll be eligible to join in the spring, and I'll get to that momentarily, right? That's something to think about. And the findings of the study indicate that fraternities and sororities are not antithetical to the values of American higher education. So you might see that there are a lot of things happening around the country in terms of campuses trying to get rid of fraternities and sororities, but research is showing that there's more positives than there are negatives in terms of fraternities and sororities being on our campuses. All right, something very Stockton specific that I am very proud of, being here for 8 years now in this role. The Stockton University Office of Institutional Research found that Stockton fraternity and sorority members' retention and graduation rates. Now, retention is freshman to sophomore year, and graduation rates, we're looking at 4-year graduation rates and 6-year graduation rates. which is a national standard, right, exceed non-affiliated students by as much as 16%. In fact, our 6-year graduation rates for fraternity and sorority members is over 99%, which I can tell you is high above national averages and Stockton average. So really great research that kind of shows what our community here at Stockton is capable of. And joining also means these things, right? So these are the things you probably hear more from when you talk to other students. But when you join a fraternity or sorority, you're joining a support network. Now, I can give you a lot of stories about this in my personal experience. The reason why I joined my fraternity really was because of the support I gained from these men around me. But you gain a support network, maybe mental and emotional. It might be just having a stronger group of friends. It could be an accountability network with your brothers and sisters to do better in school. Because let me tell you, fraternities and sororities have academic standards, and if you're slipping academically, they will talk to you about it. They'll probably set you up with an academic plan, have you do a couple of things so that you're held accountable to the standards of really focusing academically on school, getting good grades, and graduating. Networking opportunities. The amount of people that you will meet joining a fraternity or sorority, not only at Stockton, but going and attending conferences and other experiences that you take advantage of, are countless. I'll share with you a very quick story. The first job I was ever offered, all right, was actually by an alumnus of my fraternity. I was graduating. I was at our national convention that summer right after, having some conversations with him for like an hour or two. I guess he took to liking me a little bit, and he said he was asking me about what my plans were, what kind of jobs I was applying for, and then he asked me to come interview for his company, which I did, just why not? And he offered me the job. I ended up not taking it, but again, that just goes to show you just the possibilities out there. There's nothing bad about really growing your network in those networking opportunities. Some organizations have members and chapters across the United States and the world, so there are going to be lots of people you can connect with just by wearing the same letters. Leadership training, again, I just mentioned national conference. The amount of training that you will get from Stockton, from your national organization. I bring students every year to NGLA, which is the Northeast Greek Leadership Association Conference, that bounces between Pittsburgh and Hartford and Baltimore. And that's like a 3 or 4 day conference where you get to learn leadership skills and ways to help you run, the fraternity or sorority that you're a member of. So there's a lot of leadership ability too, a leadership opportunity available to you, particularly in larger organizations where they create a lot of different leadership positions, just so everybody can have that input. And then even in our smaller organizations where you might have to wear more than one hat, again, whichever kind of organization you join, you're going to have some great experiences available to you in terms of leadership training and experience. And then general life skills, right? A lot of the things that employers are looking for in terms of an employee, you'll gain a lot of those experiences through joining a fraternity or sorority. Imagine being the treasurer of a fraternity and you are working with a budget collecting dues of $50,000, $70,000, right? As a college student, that's a pretty big deal. So some things to think about in terms of gaining those life skills. So how do I actually join a fraternity or sorority? So the first thing I want to share with you is to please register. You register for Fraternity and Sorority Life by going to stockton.edu/Greeks. There is a button right on that first page, that front page of the website. You click on there and you fill out that form. That gives me all of your information so I know that you are interested. That is the first step. Once you do that, within a couple days, I'll add you to actually a Blackboard course where we have you watch a couple short videos, take a couple short quizzes, a survey, sign a couple forms. Whole thing takes maybe a half an hour. right? And that way we have all your information. We can check off on everything. The next part is make sure you have that GPA. So once you finish that eligibility process on Blackboard, we'll check your GPA, make sure you have earned that 2.5 GPA. There's an asterisk there because while Fraternity and Sorority Life in Stockton have a 2.5 requirement to join Fraternity and Sorority Life, the chapters might actually have higher requirements. So we do have organizations, some of those 27 organizations we have might have a 2.7, might have a 2.9, might have a 3.0 requirement to join. So when you're having conversations with these individuals about their fraternity and sorority, it's important to ask these questions, you know, to ask how much is it to join, what is your GPA requirement, okay? So those are some important things to think about. And then the last one is that you complete 12 college credits. So what I really want to see is that you finish your first semester at Stockton. If you're a first-year student, you'll be eligible in the spring, because we really want you to get that first semester in to kind of acclimate to college. It's a lot different than high school, so that's really important. If you are a transfer student and you have completed a full-time course load at another institution, whether it be a four-year institution or a community college, you can be eligible right now to join. You just need to reach out to me. Let me see your transcript, and you know, we'll double check on a few things. But that's basically it. So now, if you're wondering, okay, I get that out of the way, but how do I actually talk to the chapters? How do I know when they're having recruitment events? So the first thing I'll tell you is that Meet the Greeks is on Thursday, September 24th. So that's coming up in 2 days, I believe. I forget what day it is sometimes. All right, but that's actually going to be done virtually via Zoom through Osprey Hub this year. Typically, it's in person. We have it in a large room, and everybody has tables. We're going to do it a little bit differently this semester, of course. So it's going to be virtual, just like the Get Involved Fair was today. If you participated in that, it's also going on tomorrow and the rest of the week. But Meet the Greeks will happen the same way. So you'll join Meet the Greeks on Osprey Hub. You'll see that all the chapters have their own rooms that you can go in and talk to them. So I really encourage you to do that. You can also go on Osprey Hub and look up all the fraternities and sororities on there, send them emails if you want. But really where all the fraternities and sororities advertise their recruitment and intake practices and events and things like that is via Instagram. So check out Instagram and look up Stockton Fraternity and Sorority Life. Our Instagram handle is actually just Stockton_Greeks. So follow me on there. And if you look and see who I'm following, you'll find all the chapters at Stockton listed under there. It's also listed on the website. We have a link on there for all of the Instagram accounts. I share that because that is one of the #1 places for information. But more than anything, please attend Meet the Greeks on Thursday. That's where you're going to get the most information. Right. So that is the end of my my slides. So if anybody has any questions that you want to put into the chat, I'd be happy to answer them for you. I do want to thank everybody for participating today. I know it's a lot of information. You're probably mostly waiting for the information at the end there, but I wanted to give you a brief overview as well as what Fraternity and Sorority Life is all about. So somebody's asking, when can students meet the fraternities and sororities? Again, we're doing everything virtually this semester, so please attend Meet the Greeks on Thursday in order to meet some of the fraternities and sororities if you're interested. Getting a question about different majors and finding the right fraternity and sorority for you. Really finding the right fraternity or sorority for you is very much going to be on you. If you're looking for more of a professional or academic-based Greek letter organization. We are trying to actually organize those a little bit more under our office this semester. A lot of those organizations do fall under the academic programs themselves, but some of them might be joining us in a council under student development, just so we kind of house all the Greek letter organizations under one place on the website. But it really depends on what you're interested in looking for. I'd be happy to help answer any questions offline and in relation to that. To join a fraternity or sorority, do you have to live on campus or in a house? None of Stockton's fraternities and sororities have houses. 0. So if you're a commuter, joining a fraternity or sorority at Stockton is actually a great opportunity. There's no requirement to live in a house. Very often we have members of fraternities and sororities live together in off-campus apartments and housing, but there are no fraternity or sorority houses whatsoever. So if you live off campus, you're a commuter, it's actually a great opportunity for you to get more involved at Stockton by joining a fraternity or sorority. There's no requirement there. Will there be any in-person meetings? Unfortunately, this semester at this time, there will not be. Each fraternity and sorority has their own recruitment events and activities. A very small percentage of those might be in person if they follow all of the current guidelines. So again, you have to look at their schedules. You can find them on Instagram. But nothing big where all the fraternities and sororities are coming together, kind of like a Get Involved Fair or Meet the Greeks will be in person this semester. Get a question about what if you're older, you're an older college student, first year student. That's absolutely fine. We've had members of fraternity and sorority community join. We do have a lot of military veteran members who tend to come back and start school when they're 20, 23, 24, 25 years old. Many of them join fraternities and sororities. We actually had someone a couple of years ago who was a very active member of her sorority, and she was actually in her 40s. So it depends on what you're looking for and what you want to do, but I think there's definitely a place, no matter how old you are, in joining a fraternity or sorority. Getting a question about informal recruitment this fall. I assume that is pertaining to the NPC sororities because they refer to it as informal recruitment. Actually, I had a list nearby on my desk, but I believe when it comes to the Panhellenic sororities, I want to say all 6 might be recruiting this semester. Due to changes involving COVID, more organizations are having recruitment this semester than they would have in the past in the fall. Any other questions? Panhellenic sororities having recruitment this semester, ZTA, D Phi E, Tri Sigma, Tri Delta, DZ. Sigma Delta Tau is not. They have too many members. They're over the total. Any other questions? If not, feel free to reach out to me. You can send an email to my personal email address, which is joseph.thompson@stockton.edu. I can put that in the chat myself. If you want to send me an email, if you have any particular questions, feel free to do that. I'm here every day. I actually have open office hours from 2 to 3 p.m. every day as well. So if you wanted to chat in person via Zoom, please let me know. We can do that as well. And I'd be happy to do that. I just put in the Zoom my office hours, so that link right there if you want to save it. I'm online every day from 2 to 3, just hanging out here waiting for folks to come on and ask me questions, so feel free to do that. I also got the question, is there a specific registration form for Panhellenic sororities? There's not. Complete the regular registration form that I talked about earlier at stockton.edu/Greeks. If you're interested in joining one of those Panhellenic sororities, then I would just look for the recruitment events on Instagram. Reach out to them. Don't be shy about reaching out to them directly. Their contact information's on Osprey Hub. You can message them at their, DM them on Instagram. So put in that effort to do that so that you stand out, right? So, but there's no specific sign up. If you are a first-year student and you are waiting to join a fraternity or sorority in the spring, I would recommend still registering now. Get that out of the way. You might not be able to check your GPA if you don't have one yet, but that way the rest of the process is done. If you're looking to join a Panhellenic sorority in the spring, again, ZTA, D Phi E, Tri Sigma, Tri Delta, DZ, Sigma Delta Tau. That's the formal recruitment process happens the last weekend in January, the first weekend in February. It's a Friday, Saturday. That will have an additional registration process, but we will send that information out at the end of this semester. If there are no other questions at this time, I'll conclude here and thank everybody for participating. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope to see you take part in Meet the Greeks this week. Everybody take care and good luck this semester.